The luxury watch sitting on my nightstand wasn't mine. That was the first thing I noticed when I stumbled into the bedroom at 2 in the morning, still wearing my work clothes from another 16-hour day at the construction site. The second thing I noticed was that my wife Janelle wasn't there. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Adrian Falk, and I build things for a living. Structural planning mostly, making sure buildings don't fall down and crush people. It's honest work, pays decent, and requires attention to detail. The kind of detail that notices when a $5,000 Rolex appears in your bedroom like some kind of expensive mushroom. "Janelle?" I called out, but the house felt empty. Her car was in the driveway, though. I'd seen it when I pulled in. The shower was running upstairs, at 2 a.m., on a Tuesday. I picked up the watch, turned it over in my calloused hands. Engraved on the back, "To Martin, love, always, L." Well, that was interesting. My wife's name starts with J, last I checked. The shower stopped. Footsteps on the hardwood floor above. Then Janelle's voice, but muffled, like she was talking to someone. At 2 in the morning. In our house. I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. 15 years of marriage teaches you to pick your battles. But I'm also not stupid. And in my line of work, when you see cracks in the foundation, you don't ignore them. You investigate. I slipped the watch into my pocket and headed upstairs. Janelle was coming out of our bedroom, hair wet, wearing that silk robe I bought her for Christmas. She jumped when she saw me. "Adrian, you scared me. I thought you were working late." I was. "Who's Martin?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Janelle's face went through about 3 different expressions before settling on confused innocence. She was good at that look, had been practicing it for years apparently. "Martin? What do you mean?" I pulled out the watch. This was on my nightstand. It's engraved, "To Martin, love always, L." Care to explain? She barely glanced at it. "Oh, that. One of my coworkers dropped it at the office today. I said I'd return it tomorrow." "At 2 in the morning? In our bedroom?" "I was looking at it, Adrian. It's beautiful. I was thinking maybe you'd want something similar for your birthday." Smooth. Practiced. Too practiced. "Which coworker?" "Martin Kessler. He's my boss's assistant. Very clumsy guy, always dropping things." I nodded slowly. "Right. Martin Kessler, the clumsy assistant." Janelle smiled that smile that used to make my knees weak. Now it just made me tired. "Come to bed, honey. You look exhausted." I handed her the watch. "Make sure Martin gets this back. Wouldn't want him to lose track of time." The next morning, I did what any reasonable structural engineer would do when he suspects foundation problems. I started gathering data. Janelle worked at Premier Events, a high-end party planning company downtown. She'd been there 3 years, ever since she decided she was too creative for her old job at the bank. The money was good, she said. The hours were flexible. The people were inspiring. I called Premier Events from my truck during lunch break. "Good afternoon, Premier Events. This is Kathy." "Hi, I'm trying to reach Martin Kessler, please." "Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Kessler is in meetings all afternoon. He's our senior partner. Can I take a message?" Senior partner, not assistant. Interesting. "No message. I'll call back." I hung up and stared at my phone. Senior partner. That meant money. That meant power. That meant the kind of man who could afford $5,000 watches and silk-robed wives who weren't his own. That evening, Janelle was late coming home. Again. She'd been late a lot recently. Client dinners, she called them. Networking events. Team-building exercises. I was sitting in my recliner, drinking a beer and watching the news when she finally walked in at 9:30. She looked flushed, happy, guilty. "Sorry I'm late, honey. We had a huge client presentation today and Martin insisted on taking the whole team out to celebrate." "Martin Kessler?" She paused in the doorway. "Yes, why?" "Just curious. Did he get his watch back? Oh yes, he was so grateful. Said it was a gift from his wife. His wife, named Elle, apparently. Love always, Elle. That's nice, I said. What's his wife's name? Lisa, I think. I've never met her. I nodded and turned back to the TV. But I was thinking about foundation cracks and how they always start small, and how if you don't address them early, the whole structure comes down. The thing about being married to someone for 15 years is that you learn their patterns. Janelle used to come home tired, complaining about difficult clients and impossible timelines. Now she came home energized, talking about exciting new projects and innovative approaches to event management. She'd also started going to the gym, a lot. I need to stay in shape for work, she explained, modeling a new workout outfit that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. Image is everything in this business. Since when? Since I decided to take my career seriously, Adrian. Some of us have ambitions beyond building strip malls. That stung. It was supposed to. Janelle had been taking more shots at my work lately, little digs about blue-collar limitations and reaching for something better. Coming from a woman who grew up in a trailer park and married me when I was making $12 an hour, it felt particularly sharp. But I kept my mouth shut and watched. And what I saw was a woman preparing for something. New clothes, new gym membership, new attitude. The question was, preparing for what? I got my answer on a Thursday night when I came home early with a migraine. Janelle's car was in the driveway, but the house was dark. I figured she was upstairs, maybe taking a bath. I was wrong. The voices were coming from the kitchen, low, intimate, familiar. I moved through the living room like I was approaching a construction site with unstable scaffolding, carefully, quietly, ready for something to collapse. Can't keep doing this, Martin. Adrian's starting to ask questions. Let him ask. What's he going to do? Audit our expense reports? Laughter. His was deep, confident. Hers was breathless, excited. I'm serious. He found your watch. You told me, and you handled it perfectly. Stop worrying so much, Janelle. You're too beautiful to worry. I pressed myself against the wall and peered around the corner. They were sitting at my kitchen table, sharing a bottle of wine that definitely wasn't from our usual $10 selection. Martin Kessler was everything I'd expected. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit even at 8 p.m. on a Thursday. The kind of man who'd never had calluses on his hands or dirt under his fingernails. The kind of man my wife was currently kissing like her life depended on it. I watched for maybe 30 seconds before backing away. I'd seen enough. More than enough. The foundation wasn't just cracked, it was completely compromised. But here's the thing about structural failures. They don't happen overnight. They build up over time, pressure accumulating until the inevitable collapse. And sometimes, if you're smart about it, you can control when and how that collapse happens. I went to my truck, drove to the hardware store, and bought a security camera. Installing a hidden camera in your own bedroom is either the most paranoid thing you can do or the most necessary. I was betting on necessary. I'm good with my hands. 15 years in construction teaches you to work with tools, to hide wiring, to make things look natural. The camera went behind our wedding photo on the dresser. Ironic, but effective. It took 3 days to get the footage I needed. 3 days of Janelle coming home late, making excuses, and lying to my face with increasing creativity. 3 days of me pretending to believe her while documenting every inconsistency. Day 1. Client dinner ran late, but her breath smelled like expensive wine, not restaurant food. Day 2. Team building exercise at the bowling alley, but she was wearing heels and a dress more suitable for the opera. Day 3. Martin needed help with a last-minute presentation. She didn't come home until midnight. On day 4, I reviewed the footage. They were in my bedroom for 2 hours. In my bed, using my shower, drinking wine from glasses I'd given Janelle for our 10th anniversary. Martin Kessler, senior partner, married, father of two, was screwing my wife in the bed I'd been sleeping in for 8 years. I watched the whole thing, not because I'm a masochist, but because I needed to understand the scope of the problem. In construction, you can't fix what you don't fully comprehend. What I comprehended was this: Janelle wasn't just having an affair, she was in love. The way she looked at him, touched him, laughed at his jokes, that wasn't just physical, that was emotional investment. That was a woman who'd already made her choice and was just waiting for the right moment to make it official. The right moment being when she figured out how to maximize her financial gain from 15 years of marriage. I made copies of everything, multiple copies. Then I started researching Martin Kessler. Married to Lisa Kessler for 18 years. 2 kids in private school. Member of the country club. Drove a black BMW. Lived in Riverside Heights, the kind of neighborhood where my truck would get dirty looks from the mailboxes. He was also, according to public records, going through some financial difficulties. Premier Events had been struggling since the pandemic. Several lawsuits from vendors, a pattern of late payments to contractors. Interesting. A man with money problems, and a wife who was very interested in my construction business's steady income. Janelle had been asking a lot of questions about our finances lately, how much the business was worth, whether I'd ever considered selling, what kind of retirement savings we had. I'd thought she was being responsible, planning for our future. Now I realized she was planning for her future, just not with me. The call came on a Saturday morning while I was drinking coffee and planning my next move. Janelle was at the gym, or so she claimed, probably at Martin's house, meeting the wife and kids, building relationships, making herself indispensable. Adrian, it's Derek. Derek Patterson, Janelle's older brother, successful real estate agent, expensive car, expensive wife, expensive opinions about everything. He'd never liked me, made no secret of it, thought his sister had married beneath her station. What can I do for you, Derek? We need to talk, about Janelle. What about her? Meet me at Murphy's Bar on 5th Street. 1 hour. He hung up before I could respond. Murphy's was the kind of place Derek normally wouldn't be seen in. Working-class bar, cheap beer, no valet parking. The fact that he'd chosen it meant he wanted privacy, somewhere none of his usual crowd would see him. I found him in a corner booth, nursing a scotch, and looking uncomfortable. Derek was 45, soft around the middle, with the kind of tan that came from golf courses, not construction sites. He was wearing a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down. What's this about, Derek? He signaled the waitress for another round. Janelle's been talking to me. About her marriage. About you. And? She's not happy, Adrian. Hasn't been for a while. I kept my face neutral. That's between me and her. Not when she's asking me to help her find a good divorce lawyer. There it was. The other shoe, finally dropping. I took a sip of my beer and waited for the rest. She says you've grown apart. Different goals, different values. She wants more from life than you can give her. More like what? Derek shifted in his seat. Security, status, a partner who shares her ambitions. I've provided for her for 15 years. We own our house, have savings, no debt except the mortgage. How much more security does she need? It's not just about money, Adrian. It's about compatibility. Janelle's evolved. She's working with successful people now, seeing how the other half lives. It's opened her eyes to possibilities. Possibilities like Martin Kessler? Derek's face went white. What did you say? You heard me. How long have you known about the affair? He stared at his drink for a long moment. She swore it wasn't serious, said it was just a phase, something she needed to get out of her system. And you believed that? I wanted to. She's my sister, Adrian. I want her to be happy. Even if it means destroying my life? Derek finally looked at me. She's going to file for divorce next month. She wanted me to talk to you first, see if we could work something out privately. Avoid lawyers, keep it civilized. How thoughtful of her. What kind of arrangement did she have in mind? 50-50 split of assets. She keeps the house, you keep the business. Clean break, no alimony. I almost laughed. She gets the house that's tripled in value since we bought it, and I get a construction business that's one economic downturn away from bankruptcy? The business is your life's work, Adrian. I thought you'd want to keep it. And what does she get besides the house? Derek looked uncomfortable again. Freedom to pursue her relationship with Martin. Ah. So this isn't about growing apart or different values. This is about her wanting to trade up to a richer husband. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple, Derek. Your sister is a gold digger who's been planning her exit strategy for months. The only question is whether you're going to help her screw me over or whether you're going to stay out of it. Derek finished his scotch in one gulp. I'm trying to help both of you here. If this goes to court, it's going to get ugly. Lawyers will take half of everything. This way, you both walk away with something. Tell Janelle I'll think about her generous offer. But Derek? Yeah? Next time she wants to negotiate the terms of my own divorce, she can do it herself. Using you as a messenger boy is beneath even her. I left him sitting there and walked out into the afternoon sun. The foundation had finally collapsed completely. Now it was time to clear the debris and start building something new. The problem with small social circles is that when your marriage explodes, everyone feels the shockwaves. Janelle and I had built our social life around 3 other couples, Tom and Sarah Mitchell, Mike and Jennifer Walsh, and Dave and Karen Torres. We'd been friends for years, shared barbecues and birthday parties, vacations and anniversaries. Now I was about to find out who my real friends were. Tom Mitchell was my oldest friend, going back to high school. We'd worked construction together before he moved into electrical contracting. If anyone would understand my situation, it would be Tom. I called him Sunday morning. Adrian, hey man, how's it going? Not great, Tom. I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet? Sure. Sarah's taking the kids to her mother's this afternoon. Come by around 2. Tom lived in a neighborhood similar to mine. Middle class, well-maintained, the kind of place where people worked for what they had. His house was bigger than mine, but not by much. Success, but not excess. He was in his garage when I arrived, working on his boat. Tom was one of those guys who was good with his hands, could fix anything. We'd always had that in common. Beer? He offered, wiping grease off his fingers. Thanks. We sat on lawn chairs in his driveway, drinking beer and watching his neighbors work in their yards. Normal Sunday afternoon stuff. It felt surreal, given what I was about to tell him. So what's going on? Tom asked. I told him everything. The watch, the late nights, the camera footage, Derek's visit to the bar. Tom listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker with each detail. Jesus, Adrian. I'm sorry, man. That's really messed up. Yeah. What are you going to do? I'm not sure yet. But I need you to know that things are going to get complicated. Janelle's going to try to control the narrative, make this about our marriage failing instead of her cheating. She'll probably reach out to Sarah, try to get her on her side. Tom nodded. Sarah likes Janelle. They're pretty close. I know. That's why I'm telling you first. I need you to hear the truth before Janelle starts spinning her version. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, I believe you. Janelle's been different lately. Sarah mentioned it. More distant, distracted, like she was keeping secrets. She was. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Tom asked, Do you have proof? I mean real proof? Video, photos, documentation of her lies, more than enough for a divorce lawyer. Good, because you're going to need it. Janelle's not going to go quietly. He was right about that. And he was right about Sarah, too. She called me that evening, her voice cold and accusatory. Adrian, Tom told me about your conversation today. I think you need to hear Janelle's side of the story before you jump to conclusions. What conclusions would those be, Sarah? that she's having an affair. She told me weeks ago that you two were having problems, that you'd become distant, unsupportive of her career. Maybe what you saw wasn't what you think it was. I saw her in bed with another man, Sarah, in our bed. What else could it be? Maybe she was trying to make you jealous. Maybe it was a cry for help. I almost hung up. A cry for help? She's been lying to me for months, Sarah, planning to divorce me behind my back, having her brother negotiate terms like, I'm a business deal. That's not a cry for help, that's betrayal. Marriage is complicated, Adrian. Sometimes people make mistakes when they're unhappy. Whose side are you on here? I'm not on anyone's side. I just think you should consider counseling before you blow up your marriage over a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Sarah, and there's no marriage left to save. I hung up and immediately called Mike Walsh. If Sarah was already defending Janelle, I needed to get ahead of the story with Mike and Jennifer before they heard it filtered through the wives' network. Mike was more receptive than Sarah had been, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. That doesn't sound like Janelle, Adrian. Are you sure you're not overreacting? I have video evidence, Mike. Maybe you should show it to her, confront her directly, give her a chance to explain. She's had months of chances to explain. She chose to lie instead. By the time I called Dave Torres, I was starting to understand how this was going to play out. Dave was polite but distant, like he was already choosing sides, and it wasn't mine. Look, Adrian, I don't want to get involved in this. Whatever's going on between you and Janelle, you need to work it out between yourselves. There's nothing to work out, Dave. She's been cheating on me. That's between you and her, man. Don't drag the rest of us into it. And just like that, 15 years of friendship evaporated. Tom was the only one who stood by me, and even he was walking a tightrope because of Sarah's loyalty to Janelle. I was on my own. Janelle came home Tuesday night with takeout from our favorite restaurant and a bottle of wine. She was trying too hard to be normal, cheerful, loving. It would have been pathetic if it hadn't been so calculating. I thought we could have a nice dinner together, she said, setting the containers on the kitchen table. We haven't spent much quality time lately. No, we haven't. She poured wine for both of us, her hands steady. I know I've been working a lot. The business is really taking off, and Martin, Mr. Kessler, has been giving me more responsibilities. It's exciting, but I know it's been hard on us. Has it? I want you to know that you're still the most important thing in my life, Adrian. My career matters, but not more than our marriage. I watched her perform, marveling at how smoothly the lies rolled off her tongue. If I hadn't seen the video footage, hadn't watched her with Martin in our bed, I might have believed her, wanted to believe her. That's good to hear, I said. We ate dinner making small talk about work, the weather, plans for the weekend. Janelle was animated, engaged, playing the role of loving wife with Oscar-worthy commitment. She even laughed at my jokes. After dinner, she suggested we watch a movie together. Like we used to, she said, curling up next to me on the couch. Remember when we first moved in here? We'd spend every evening right here just talking and watching old movies. I remember. We were so happy then, so sure about everything. Were we? She looked at me with those blue eyes that had captured my heart 20 years ago. I was, weren't you? I thought I was, but maybe I was just naive. What do you mean? I mean, maybe I believed what I wanted to believe instead of seeing what was really there. Janelle shifted uncomfortably. Adrian, is something wrong? You've been acting strange lately. Have I? Distant, suspicious, like you don't trust me. I turned to face her fully. Should I trust you, Janelle? Of course. Why would you even ask that? Because trust is earned, and lately, I'm wondering what I've done to earn yours. You don't have to earn my trust, Adrian. You're my husband. And what does that mean to you? Being your husband? She was getting flustered now, sensing dangerous territory. It means everything. You're my partner, my best friend, the person I want to spend my life with. Even though you're planning to divorce me? The words hung in the air like a dropped hammer. Janelle went very still, her face cycling through surprise, denial, and calculation before settling on confused innocence. What are you talking about? I'm not planning to divorce you. Derek says otherwise. Her face flushed. Derek told you? He wasn't supposed to. She caught herself, but it was too late. Wasn't supposed to what, Janelle? Wasn't supposed to tell me that my own wife is shopping for divorce lawyers? It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. She stood up, pacing to the window. I was upset, okay? We'd been fighting, and I said some things to Derek that I didn't mean. I was just venting. What fights? We haven't been fighting. Not openly, but there's been tension, distance. I felt like you weren't supporting my career, weren't interested in my success. So you decided to find someone who was? What's that supposed to mean? I stood up and walked to the mantel, where our wedding photo sat next to the hidden camera. It means I know about Martin Kessler. The color drained from her face. Adrian, I know about the late nights, the business dinners, the gym memberships you never use. I know about the expensive wine and the lies, and the way you look at him like he's everything you ever wanted. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Then you won't mind if I show you something. I pulled out my phone and opened the video file. This is from last Thursday, while I was working late, trying to provide for my ungrateful wife. I hit play. The footage was crystal clear, Janelle and Martin in our bedroom, in our bed, making love with a passion she hadn't shown me in years. Janelle stared at the screen, her face going through a dozen emotions. Finally, she looked up at me with something I'd never seen before, pure hatred. You filmed us? You sick bastard, you filmed us? I filmed my bedroom in my house, where my wife was screwing her boss. You had no right, I had every right. It's my house, my bed, my marriage you were destroying. She was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage, of a plan falling apart. How long have you known? Long enough. What do you want? Money? Is this some kind of blackmail? I almost laughed. Even caught red-handed, she thought this was about money. I want you out of my house. Tonight. This is my house too. Not anymore. I've already filed for divorce. Adultery, abandonment, fraud. My lawyer says it's going to be very expensive for you. You can't do this. I already have. Your things are packed. They're in the garage. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You're not the man I married. No, I'm not. The man you married was a fool who believed in love and loyalty and keeping promises. That man is gone. You ruined him. Janelle grabbed her purse and headed for the door. At the threshold, she turned back. You'll regret this, Adrian. Martin and we're going to be together, and you'll be alone in this pathetic little house with your pathetic little life, wondering what you could have been if you'd had any ambition. Maybe, but I'll be able to sleep at night. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I watched through the curtains as she loaded her suitcases into her car and drove away, probably straight to Martin's house. I poured myself a scotch and sat back down on the couch. The house felt different already, cleaner somehow, like a weight had been lifted. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom. Sarah told me what happened. You okay? I typed back, getting there. It was true. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The divorce proceedings moved faster than I'd expected. Having video evidence of adultery tends to expedite things. Janelle hired an expensive lawyer, probably paid for by Martin, but there wasn't much he could do. The facts were the facts. What surprised me was how quickly our social circle completely imploded. Sarah Mitchell called me a week after Janelle moved out. Her voice was ice cold. I hope you're proud of yourself, Adrian. Janelle is devastated. She should be. Actions have consequences. She made a mistake. That doesn't mean you had to destroy her life. I didn't destroy her life, Sarah. She destroyed our marriage. I just documented it. You're being vindictive. The Adrian I knew would have tried to work things out. The Adrian you knew was married to a woman who loved him. That woman apparently never existed. Sarah hung up on me. Tom called an hour later. Sarah's furious with you. She's been on the phone with Janelle all morning. And she wants me to choose sides. Either I support you, or I support our marriage. I felt sick. Tom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Sarah's my wife. If she can't be around you anymore, then neither can I. So that's it? 20 years of friendship down the drain? I'm sorry, Adrian. I really am. But I have to live with her. Mike and Jennifer Walsh didn't even call. I just stopped getting invited to things. Dave Torres crossed the street when he saw me at the grocery store. In the space of 2 weeks, I went from having a social circle to being completely isolated. The only person who reached out was someone I hadn't expected, Lisa Kessler. She called on a Thursday evening, her voice shaky but determined. Mr. Falk, this is Lisa Kessler, Martin's wife. I think we need to talk. We met at a coffee shop downtown, far from both our neighborhoods. Lisa was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd expected a pampered country club wife, but she was sharp, professional, clearly intelligent. She worked as a financial advisor, had her own practice. I want to thank you, she said after we'd ordered coffee. For what? For opening my eyes. I've suspected Martin was having an affair for months, but I couldn't prove it. Your wife, ex-wife, wasn't his first. That hit me like a punch to the gut. There were others? At least 2 that I know of. Martin has a pattern. Young women at work, usually ones with financial problems or career ambitions. He promises them advancement, security, a better life. Then he gets bored and moves on. Jesus. The difference with Janelle is that she was married. The others were single, easier to discard. But a married woman, that's messier, more complicated. So what are you going to do? Lisa smiled grimly. I've already done it. Filed for divorce yesterday. And unlike your situation, I have the better lawyer. Good for you. There's something else you should know about Martin's financial situation. I leaned forward. What about it? He's broke, or close to it. Premier Events is failing. He's been using company funds to maintain his lifestyle, pay for expensive dinners and hotel rooms and gifts for his girlfriends. The IRS is investigating. Does Janelle know? I doubt it. Martin's very good at projecting success, but within 6 months he'll probably be facing criminal charges. I stared at my coffee, processing this information. Janelle had blown up our marriage for a man who was not only a serial cheater but also a criminal. The irony was almost funny. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what your wife traded you for, and because I think we can help each other. How? Martin's been hiding assets, trying to protect them from the divorce settlement and the IRS. But I know where they are, and I know how to make sure he loses everything. Lisa Kessler was not a woman to underestimate. Over the next hour, she laid out a plan that was both elegant and devastating. Martin had been using Premier Events as his personal piggy bank, but he'd been careless about covering his tracks. With Lisa's inside knowledge of his finances and my documentation of his affair with Janelle, we could destroy him completely. The question is, Lisa said, how far are you willing to go? I thought about Janelle's parting words, her contempt for my pathetic little life. I thought about losing all my friends, being treated like the villain in my own story. I thought about 15 years of marriage that had apparently meant nothing to her, as far as necessary. The plan Lisa and I devised was simple in concept but complex in execution. We would systematically destroy Martin Kessler's life the same way he'd destroyed our marriages, methodically, ruthlessly, and completely legally. Step 1 was exposing his financial crimes. Lisa had copies of bank statements, credit card bills, and company records that showed a clear pattern of embezzlement. She'd been gathering evidence for months, preparing for her own divorce. Now we would use that evidence to trigger an IRS audit and criminal investigation. Step 2 was destroying his professional reputation. Premier events depended on referrals and word of mouth in the high-end social circles of our city. A few well-placed conversations about Martin's personal conduct and ethical lapses would poison those relationships permanently. Step 3 was the most satisfying. We would make sure Janelle understood exactly what kind of man she'd chosen over me. Lisa handled the financial angle. Within a week, she'd provided evidence to the IRS, the State Attorney General's office, and Premier Events Board of Directors. Martin's assets were frozen pending investigation. His business accounts were seized. His country club membership was suspended. I handled the social destruction. It turns out that construction contractors talk to each other, and many of them had worked with Premier Events over the years. A few conversations about payment problems and ethical concerns spread through the network like wildfire. Within days, vendors were demanding cash up front from Premier Events. Suppliers were canceling contracts. The company's reputation was in free fall. But the real masterstroke came when Lisa discovered something in Martin's financial records that even she hadn't expected. He'd been embezzling money specifically to fund his affairs. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, jewelry, all paid for with company funds. And he'd been stupid enough to use the company credit card. "This isn't just adultery," Lisa told me over coffee. "This is wire fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. Martin's looking at serious prison time." What about Janelle? That depends on what she knew and when she knew it. If she accepted expensive gifts, knowing they were purchased with stolen money, she could be charged as an accessory. The thought of Janelle facing criminal charges should have bothered me more than it did. But after weeks of being treated like the villain by our former friends, after watching her play the victim while painting me as a controlling husband, I found I had very little sympathy left. The first sign that our plan was working came when Tom Mitchell called me, his voice confused and apologetic. "Adrian, I just heard something weird. Dave Torres said Martin Kessler got arrested." "Really?" "Yeah, something about embezzling money from his company. Sarah's freaking out because Janelle's been staying with them since the divorce, and now she's worried about being associated with criminals." I almost smiled. "That's rough. Look, man, I'm starting to think maybe we judged this situation wrong. Sarah's been talking to Janelle, and some of the things she's saying don't add up. Like, Janelle claimed you were financially controlling, but Sarah knows you've always been generous with money, and she said you were emotionally distant, but you've never been that way with any of us. People see what they want to see, Tom." "Maybe, but if Martin really is a criminal, and if Janelle was involved with him, maybe you weren't the bad guy here." It was a small victory, but I'd take it. The bigger victory came 3 days later when Lisa called with an update. "Martin's been formally charged with embezzlement and wire fraud. The DA's office is also investigating tax evasion. His lawyer thinks he's looking at 5 to 7 years. And Janelle? They're questioning her as a potential witness. So far, no charges, but they're looking into whether she knew about the source of his money." "How's she handling it?" "Not well, according to my sources. She's been calling Martin's lawyer, trying to distance herself from the whole situation, claiming she had no idea where his money came from. Do you believe that? I think Janelle's smarter than Martin gave her credit for. Smart enough to cover her tracks anyway." That evening, I got a call I'd been expecting for weeks. "Adrian, it's Derek." Janelle's brother sounded tired, defeated. The cocky real estate agent who'd tried to negotiate my divorce terms was gone, replaced by a man who'd realized he'd backed the wrong horse. "What can I do for you, Derek?" "It's about Janelle. She needs help." "What kind of help?" "Legal help. Financial help. The FBI seized her bank accounts as part of the investigation into Martin. She can't afford a lawyer." "That's unfortunate." "Adrian, she's my sister. Whatever happened between you two, she doesn't deserve to go to prison." "Doesn't she? She destroyed our marriage for a criminal. She lied to me for months, planned to steal half of everything I'd worked for, and turned all our friends against me. What exactly does she deserve? A second chance. Everyone deserves a second chance. I gave her 15 years of second chances, Derek. I'm fresh out. So you're just going to let her go to prison? I'm not sending her to prison. Her choices are. If she's innocent, she'll be fine. If she's not, well, that's what happens when you sleep with criminals. Derek was quiet for a long moment. You've changed, Adrian. You used to be a good man. I'm still a good man, Derek. I'm just not a stupid one anymore. After I hung up, I poured myself a drink and sat on my back porch, watching the sunset. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace. The foundation of my old life had collapsed completely, but I was building something new, something stronger, something that couldn't be destroyed by lies. The trial of Martin Kessler became the social event of the season, though not in the way Premier Events would have marketed it. The local newspaper covered it extensively, detailing how a successful businessman had embezzled over $200,000 to fund his extramarital affairs. Janelle was called as a witness for the prosecution. I attended every day of her testimony, sitting in the back of the courtroom, watching her squirm under cross-examination. She looked different, thinner, paler, older. The confidence and vitality that had attracted me 20 years ago had been replaced by desperation and fear. She wore conservative clothes, spoke in a small voice, played the role of innocent victim. I had no idea where Mr. Kessler's money came from, she testified. He told me he was successful, that Premier Events was thriving. I believed him. The prosecutor showed her credit card receipts, hotel bills, restaurant charges, all paid for with company funds. You never questioned how Mr. Kessler could afford 5-star restaurants and luxury hotels on a regular basis? I trusted him. He said he had expense accounts, that entertaining clients was part of his business. Even when those client dinners were romantic evenings for two, I was naive. I thought he was including me in his business activities. It was a masterful performance, but the jury wasn't buying it. Janelle might not have known the specific details of Martin's embezzlement, but she'd certainly benefited from it. And her affair with a married man while she was also married didn't exactly paint her as an innocent victim. Martin's lawyer tried to portray him as a man driven to desperate measures by his failing marriage and financial pressures. The jury wasn't buying that either. Martin Kessler was a successful businessman who'd chosen to steal money to fund his affairs. There was no sympathy for that. The verdict came back after 3 days of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. Martin was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison and ordered to pay full restitution to Premier Events and the IRS. Janelle wasn't charged criminally, but the civil suits were just beginning. Premier Events creditors were going after anyone who'd benefited from the embezzled funds. Lisa's divorce attorney was seeking to recover money Martin had spent on his affairs. The IRS was auditing everyone connected to the case. Janelle's financial situation went from bad to catastrophic. She called me the night after Martin's sentencing. "Adrian, please, I need help." Her voice was small, broken. This wasn't the confident woman who'd left me for a richer man. This was someone who'd lost everything and was finally understanding the consequences of her choices. "What kind of help?" "Money. The lawyers are taking everything. I can't afford rent, can't afford food. Derek's cut me off, says he can't be associated with the scandal anymore." "Where are you living?" "A motel on Highway 9, the cheap one by the truck stop." I knew the place. $40 a night, weekly rates available, the kind of place where people stayed when they'd run out of options. "I'm sorry to hear that. Adrian, I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible mistakes. But I'm begging you. I need help. Just enough to get back on my feet. What about your friends? Sarah and Jennifer were so supportive during the divorce. They won't take my calls anymore. Once the criminal charges came out, once they realized what Martin really was, They all disappeared. Interesting how that works. Please, I'll do anything. I'll sign papers saying I don't want any of the house or the business. I'll disappear completely if that's what you want. Just help me get through this. I sat in my kitchen, looking around at the house we'd shared for 8 years. It felt completely different now. Clean, peaceful, mine. I'd redecorated, bought new furniture, erased every trace of our marriage except the memories. Janelle, do you remember what you said to me the night you left? Adrian, you said I'd regret divorcing you, that Martin and you were going to be together, and I'd be alone in my pathetic little house with my pathetic little life, wondering what I could have been if I'd had any ambition. Silence. Do you remember saying that? I was angry. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. You meant every word. And you know what? You were partially right. What do you mean? I am alone in this house. But it's not pathetic anymore. It's peaceful. And I'm not wondering what I could have been. I know exactly what I am. A man who works hard, keeps his promises, and doesn't have to lie to sleep at night. Adrian, please. You made your choice, Janelle. You chose Martin over me, excitement over stability, lies over truth. Now you get to live with the consequences. I can't survive on my own. I don't know how. Then you'll learn. The same way I learned how to live without a wife who loved me. The same way I learned to rebuild my social life after your friends decided I was the villain. The same way I learned that sometimes the foundation has to collapse completely before you can build something better. I could hear her crying, but it didn't move me the way it once would have. Goodbye, Janelle. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hung up and turned off my phone. 6 months later, I ran into Tom Mitchell at the hardware store. He looked embarrassed, uncomfortable, but he approached me anyway. Adrian, hey, how are you doing? Good, Tom. Really good. Listen, I owe you an apology. We all do. Sarah's been feeling terrible about how we treated you during the divorce. Once the truth about Martin came out, once we realized what Janelle had really done. It's okay, Tom. No, it's not. We should have trusted you. Should have known you wouldn't lie about something like that. People believe what they want to believe. Janelle was very convincing. Sarah wants to have you over for dinner. Try to make things right. I considered it. Tom had been my oldest friend, and I'd missed our friendship, but some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I appreciate the offer, but I'm good. I've moved on. Are you seeing anyone? I smiled. Actually, yes. Her name's Lisa. She's a financial advisor. Very smart, very honest. We have a lot in common. Tom's eyes widened as he made the connection. Lisa Kessler? Lisa Morrison now. She went back to her maiden name after the divorce. Wow, that's unexpected. Sometimes the best things come from the worst situations. We helped each other through a difficult time and it turned into something more. I'm happy for you, man, really. Thanks, Tom. Take care of yourself. As I drove home, I thought about the conversation. A year ago, I would have jumped at the chance to reconcile with my old friends. Now, it didn't seem necessary. I had a new life, better relationships, a clearer understanding of what really mattered. Lisa was waiting for me when I got home, sitting on the porch swing we'd installed together. She was reading a book, her dark hair catching the late afternoon sun. When she saw me, she smiled, the kind of smile that came from genuine happiness, not performance or manipulation. "How was your day?" she asked. "Interesting. I'll tell you about it over dinner." "Good. I made that pasta you like." We went inside together, and I realized this was what I'd been searching for all along. Simple happiness, honest companionship, a partner who chose to be there instead of feeling trapped. Janelle had been right about one thing. I had changed, but not in the way she'd meant. I'd become someone who recognized his own worth, who wouldn't settle for lies and manipulation, who understood that sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what really matters. The foundation of my old life had indeed collapsed, but what I'd built in its place was stronger, cleaner, and completely my own. As we sat down to dinner, Lisa reached across the table and took my hand. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too." And for the first time in years, I meant it completely.